10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
Well, hello there. What's up? Why am I so small in the chat? That is just... There we go. Playing around with the chat beforehand. I guess I pulled the news articles up too quickly beforehand. What's up, everybody? We are trying the new time for the first time today. I thought today was a good day to do it because I do Trigger Time anyway. As some of you guys know, because we talked about this last Friday, I want to start moving my chats to 6 o'clock my time. Okay, so that I can do them earlier so that I'm not too tired to do my chats. Since I wake up at a retarded hour before the ass crack of dawn, as you guys know, doing my chats regularly has been something I have been struggling to do, and I want to get back to doing it. So we talked about this last Friday, about me starting to do more chats throughout the week, but just doing them earlier and for only about an hour. And most people seem to be on board with that. That does not mean we will not do longer chats, whenever I can. It just means I want to get back to more regular chats. So I thought I wanted to start doing it next week, start on Monday, start doing 6 o'clock chats. And I thought, you know what? I'm doing Trigger Time tonight anyway. Why don't I just start it? Why don't I just do it tonight? Start it tonight. This is a test run for the 6 o'clock hour my time, which I know is early. I'm in Eastern time, so I get it for some people out there. But it's like this, or I'm asleep by the time I would normally do chats. And then there's no chat at all. So, don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this chat. Probably not going to call it Trigger Time. We'll probably stick to the Guns and Geeks podcast is what it's going to be called. I called it Trigger Time tonight just because I do a Trigger Time on Friday anyway. So we're sticking to that for tonight. And having a kind of a more condensed chat, being an hour as opposed to 2 hours, will hopefully keep the chats from going off the rails too much. And, keep things rolling and flowing, because I do want to talk about like news stories and things like that and what's going on in the world and that kind of stuff. So that's what this is. For those who are wondering, that's what it is. So there you go. So anyway, we'll keep this one kind of loose and free and all that kind of stuff. I see you guys out there. Yeah, we'll do an hour chat, 6 o'clock Eastern time. Try to do that more often. There we go. So what do we got today? I do have news stories that I want to talk about with you guys in the chat. Stuff that I'm sure most people already know about, but I thought we could just sit back and chill for an hour and discuss and go from there. And then for those of you that want to go over and check out the Geek Chat, we are doing a Geek Chat tonight on the other channel. So anyway, so now we'll get to the actual point of the chats. So obviously this is the thing that is the biggest news for most people right now. I mean, if you pay attention to politics and international relations, obviously Israel deciding to bomb the shit out of Iran, bomb nuclear targets. My understanding is that it was just nuclear facility targets. That was the only thing that is. Obviously, they're saying 78 were killed. Of course, Iran's coming out and saying all 78 that were killed were women and children, which we know is bullshit. Well, you know, nobody believes that. They're just trying to get sympathy. Pure and simple. Pure and simple. And obviously, this is causing quite the stir for a lot of people. There's already a very anti-Israel, anti-Jewish bent to media and to probably about half this country, much less the rest of the world. That's been going on before this. But, you know, if you've spent the last 30 years, give or take, as a country saying you are going to build nuclear weapons and the first thing you will do is wipe Israel off the map, and you keep making those threats, and then all worldwide intelligence points to the fact that you're getting closer to actually accomplishing that goal of creating nuclear weapons, don't be surprised when the other country's like, you know what? Fuck you. And bombs the shit out of your nuclear facilities. I'm just saying, is it really a surprise that this happened? You know what I mean? I don't think so. And is it justified? That's the question. I think it is. I think it is totally justified. I mean, it's the equivalent of if for 30 years, a radically anti-American Canada had been saying that they were going to build nuclear weapons to wipe the United States of America off the map. And then we got intel, along with every other intelligence organization on the planet from every other country, also got the same intel that Canada was about to accomplish their goal of having nuclear capabilities. We would fucking bomb the shit out of them. And justifiably so. We didn't, you know, they didn't get nuked, right? They didn't go and bomb civilian targets. They bombed nuclear facilities. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. I really don't. You know what I mean? So, of course, the world is up in arms and everybody's talking about, will this be the beginning of World War III? I don't know. I mean, hell, I feel like we've been on the verge of World War III for like a decade now at this point. I mean, seriously, it feels like it goes back to the very end of Obama's last term, right? Like we felt like, you know, and it's hard to say because you know, obviously you guys and me and like we can only go off the information that is put before us. But it certainly does seem like between civil unrest, not just in this country, but all over the world, mass migration of groups of people with vastly different beliefs and morals moving into areas where their beliefs and morals aren't compatible with the citizenry there. Countries like Iran with their rhetoric and talking about building nuclear weapons and everything going on with Russia and Ukraine. It feels like we've just been barely teetering on the edge of World War III for a while. Now, what does World War III look like? I don't know. I mean, are we even at this point, are we in a situation technologically and socially and politically to where a quote unquote World War III would even be fought in any way that we would immediately associate with a war? I mean, maybe not. I mean, you know, you look at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, right? And that's a very old school kind of land war, right? A war over land. But I don't know that that's necessarily how a modern war would be fought. because you're talking about a war that wouldn't be fought over land. A potential World War III, if you look at all the potential catalysts for a World War III, whether it's Iran or North Korea or Russia or China or whatever, right? Like, those would not be wars fought over trying to conquer lands and peoples. They would be wars fought over politics and policies and radical pseudo-political religious beliefs, wars fought over trade imbalances and things like that. It wouldn't be fought over land. And I mean, while there are many, many things that were involved, and let's go back to World War II, many things that were involved, sorry, I just clicked that off, involved in World War II, and politics and beliefs and ideologies and all kinds of things were wrapped up in it. I mean, obviously, one of the big things that was involved in it was the taking of land. Germany wanted to sweep across Europe and the Balkans and Russia and Africa and Western Asia, and they wanted to take over. Sometimes in name only, they wanted to go and like with Iran, for instance, and just make deals to get them on their side. But whether it was France or Russia or whatever, Poland, they wanted the land, they wanted the resources, they wanted control of the people, they wanted to control the ideological and political and societal aspects of these areas completely. And I don't think that's what we would be looking at in a World War III. I don't think we would be fighting over land, over taking over a country. I mean, if you look at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now, which is the closest thing we have currently really on a world stage to that mind, that mind thought of that type of war, Russia's not trying to necessarily take over Ukraine. They're trying to take chunks of Ukraine that they view as valuable to them, but they're not trying to take over an entire country. I mean, they certainly would if they thought they could, but I don't know. It's just, it's very different, I think, today. So I don't even know what a World War III would look like. I really don't. But does this type of stuff right here push us closer to a quote unquote World War III? I mean, yeah. That doesn't mean it's inevitable. That doesn't mean this is the spark. But this certainly does it, right? So, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I did see a super chat here. Officer Tater Hater says, Matt Yankee said you have Alzheimer's again. I sent you a lot of emails. These cops need general population and mini visits with Bubba. Yeah, well, because again, so here's the deal with Yankee. First and foremost, let's address that. The chat was supposed to be week before last, or last week, because that would have been 2 weeks from the last time there was a chat. And he fucking forgot, I guess. I don't know. And it would have been perfect because I was off the next day. I didn't have to go to sleep early that Thursday because I was off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday last week. And he just fucking didn't do the chat. Now, today I had to go to work. So I did not stay up late last night. I was asleep by 6 o'clock last night. So, I wake up in the morning and he sent me a link and all this shit. Well, dude, it's the wrong week, bro. Like, you should have done it last week. Not this week. This was not the week. So, that's not on me. Anyway. Yeah, cops in general, I think... I've had so many conversations about cops. But, generally speaking, fuck the police. Which, of course, have y'all seen, I'm sure everybody has in the world at this point, everything going on in California. Obviously, that's the other big story here in the United States. All the stuff going on with the ICE raids and the National Guard being deployed. Now, The Marines are getting sent in to essentially back up the National Guard. There's a big debate over whether or not what Trump did and the reasoning he gave behind his ability to activate the National Guard was valid or not. I'm sure that's going to go through the courts and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. I swim in a lot of libertarian circles online because I am libertarian. And it's funny watching libertarians react to what's going on in California, because it's really, really like the libertarians are such a shit party. And this is why I've said many times, I'm not a big L libertarian. I'm a libertarian insofar as I believe in libertarian values and beliefs in a very traditional, what used to be called like a more traditional liberal, classical liberal, before the Democrats and the progressives took over the word liberal. But that's what I mean when I say I'm libertarian, And there's so many libertarians that just are not that. The Libertarian Party is basically just a bunch of Republicans and Democrats who still hold all their Republican and Democrat beliefs, but I think somehow they think they're better than Republicans and Democrats because they like to just say, I'm libertarian. But then when you actually have conversations and you go to like some of the libertarian websites and pages and things where I spend my time, talking to people and stuff, they just act like fucking Republicans and Democrats in there. Half of them are like, oh, people can't be illegal, and there's no borders in a fucking libertarian society. And then the other half are like, oh yeah, fucking send in the Marines, fuck those illegal immigrants. But I mean, again, it's very, very like how a Republican and how a Democrat would respond to what's going on. And the Libertarian Party as a whole is just that. No wonder they can't fucking win a goddamn thing. Because both sides are fucking wrong. Both sides have some valid points, and both sides are wrong. And it's just such a clusterfuck right now. Like, at least if you're a Republican and you're watching what's going on in California, you're probably like being very consistent with your ideology in saying, hell yeah, the Marines and law enforcement should go in there and fucking kick all those people out, bang, 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 whatever, and get them the fuck out. And if you're a Democrat, I just, have nothing in common with you, but at least you're being consistent with the whole, like, oh, people can't be illegal, and, borders are just made up political bullshit, and, leave these poor people alone. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, I don't agree with either of those points of view. You know what I mean? I don't. Yes, these fuckers are illegal. And by the way, for you libertarians out there who are fucking floating, and it's a lot of fucking libertarians floating this notion that ICE and the National Guard and any form of law enforcement that's sent in there to do this is somehow fucking doing the wrong thing just because you hate law enforcement. Look, I'm not a fan of law enforcement at all. All right. However, if you are a libertarian and you're claiming bullshit about there are no borders, you are not a fucking libertarian, because the core fundamental fucking bedrock foundation of libertarianism is right to private property, and by extension the right to know to allow who is and is not allowed on your property, and the right to defend that property, whether that's land, fucking house, car, I don't know, your fucking pack of Pokemon cards, whatever the fuck it is, right? If that means you can put up a wall or a fence or whatever, it is a core principle of libertarianism, is the right to own and make 100% determinations about the use of your property. So to say, as a libertarian, that people should be able to come here illegally without permission is fucking retarded. Absolutely fucking retarded. At the same time, I don't like law enforcement. And I think that from what I have read, that Trump has stretched the boundaries of what he is allowed to do, sending the National Guard in for these fucking riots. As far as ICE goes, I have no real beef with ICE as an organization. They are a federal law enforcement organization. And so on the surface, as somebody who is fairly anti-law enforcement, just because they usually tend to enforce unconstitutional laws, on the surface, I'm not the biggest fan of ICE. However, I don't see them doing anything that violates the Constitution when they go into these raids and try to get people out who are here without permission and without citizenship and without going through the proper established channels established, yes, by our government, but more specifically by the will of the people that live here, by us, the citizens. And these people are ignoring that and breaking those things that we in our country vow as somewhat sacred things, laws that need to be obeyed. Hey, do it the right way if you're going to fucking come in. So I don't objectively see anything wrong with what ICE is doing. I don't think the National Guard should have been called in. I don't think really, like I said, Trump, I think he severely stretched what he's allowed to do. And I think he's going to go through the courts and it'll probably come out that he was not allowed to do that. And also sending in the Marines, even as just support for the National Guard. I have a problem with that, even though it is, I get the reasoning behind it, and I agree something needs to be done about illegal immigration. I don't think that something is releasing the military on U.S. streets to enforce anything. I don't think this is that level of situation. The situation we are talking about is a situation caused by the state government in California. They caused this situation. Okay? This is their fault. Now, you want to say that by allowing these things to happen, that the governor and the legislature in California has violated the U.S. Constitution, and you want to charge them as such. That is something I think that Trump can do. I think he should fucking do that. Because they are the reason why the situation is allowed in the first place. Because they don't just like, oh man, we didn't know what was happening. They actively have law enforcement and their own laws go out of their way to facilitate illegal immigration. And I think that violates the, for lack of a better word, sanctity of our Constitution and us being a sovereign nation. But I don't have a problem with what ICE is doing. I mean, ICE is like literally just going in and saying, hey, you're here illegally, blah, 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 get the fuck out. Let's go. I have a problem with that. Yeah, they shouldn't fucking be here. But like I said, I think Trump's pushing it with the military aspect of it. And I really just can't get on board with that. Especially because I don't think this is a situation where ICE can't handle it. And it's a situation being egged on by state government. So what you do is you send ICE in and keep having them do what they're doing. And then you charge the government officials that have put laws and rules and procedures and policies in place that is allowing this to happen. If a police department is not, which they're not, by the way, but if a police department is not doing their job and upholding laws under the Constitution and shutting down riots to protect people and allowing illegal immigration, all that, you go in and you fuck them up. You charge them, Same thing with the governor. Same thing with the legislature. Same thing with the state senate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you need to send in military. So. Anyway. But obviously that's the other big story that's going on, other than Iran and Israel. Those are the two biggest stories, I think, that we've got. I did see this, though. This is, so Iran launched my chat just flicker. That looked weird. I don't know what the fuck just happened. I think my chat just flickered. Did it go off and on? Did it cut out for a second there, or was that just me on my end? Jesus. Anyway, yeah, so Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Thursday that Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who were previously temporarily shielded from deportation will be emailed notice telling them to go and get the fuck out. This is a different story I pulled up. I pulled this up thinking this was one story, and this is a different story. Basically, so we'll just talk about this here real quick before I get into the other one. Yeah, I don't know why I cut out there for a second. Sorry. I don't know how long that cut out, but I think it was just for a minute. Anyway, 500,000 citizens of 4 countries being ordered to leave. These were citizens that were told they could stay here by the Biden administration. Department of Homeland Security is kicking them out. There's also another story out there, which is the one that I thought I was showing here for a second, where they've also told American citizens in other countries in the Middle East, you need to get the fuck home right now. Right now. So that, of course, is because of what's going on with Iran and Israel. This is tomorrow. The No Kings protest. Has everybody heard about this? There's a bunch of them going on here in Michigan. Like a fuck ton of them. There's going to be one. I got to work tomorrow, of course. And there's going to be one about 3 miles away from where I work. Now, they don't really expect it to get out of control. But they've got us, like, basically, they came in yesterday and today, and we're like, just so you guys know, this is happening. We don't expect anything based on the last time there was, this was bad. The last time there was any big kind of protests or anything was during George Floyd. Of course, I was not here then, but apparently it didn't get crazy, at least not in Flint, which is where I work. And so like we don't expect anything crazy, but just in case, just keep your eyes out. You know what I mean? Just like pay attention. So yeah, I'm not expecting anything crazy tomorrow, but yeah, these protests are going up all over the country, and they're in every, I don't know about other states. I was looking into Texas, and I think Texas, there's like 3 of the protests planned in 3 different cities. In Michigan, there are protests planned, I think, in 27 cities across Michigan. So obviously, bigger deal here. But of course, the whole thing is to protest the Trump administration and what's going on with ICE in California and all the other bullshit. So, hey man, it's riot season, right? It's riot season. What do you expect? This is the time. So, I did want to show you guys this, just because I'm excited about this. This is geek related. Don't care. Spaceballs 2 is happening. Okay. Yesterday, I believe they released an official teaser. Now it's in pre-production right now, but they've already given it a release of 2027. Rick Moranis, for the first time in almost 30 years, I think, is coming back and to acting. He has not been acting since I think the 90s was the last time he acted. So is Bill Pullman. So I don't know who else from the main cast. Mel Brooks is going to be in it. Mel Brooks was the one who put out the announcement. I'm very excited about this. I'm very, very excited about a Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, or whatever the fuck they end up calling it. This makes me smile. Granted, it's still like a year and a half away, but it's been greenlit. It's in pre-production. It's gonna happen. I'm very, very happy about that. Very happy about that. All right, that is the story. Oh, my timer just started going off. Anyway, that's the stories that I had to talk about today. So now we're just gonna, go through the comments in the chats and see what's going on. I have the comment. I mean, I kind of have the comments pulled up, but I prefer to look at them in the YouTube chat there, as opposed to this chat. The StreamYard chat is just, I don't know. I don't like it as much. They still have the top fans thing going on. Who are the top fans? Oh, Chasing Ghosts is number 1. Terror's number 1. California Republic's number 2. Jumpy's number 3. Those are your top 3. Your top fans. Let's see. Calvin says organizers for the Raleigh protest said they were denied permits, so they're having it on a sidewalk. Raleigh police said they never applied for permits. Not surprising. Lele says there's chatter going on that this No Kings thing is actually done by deep state China and is going to be used as a color revolution to off Trump. I mean, I have no idea. Let's see. Lele says Rick Moranis left Hollywood to take care of sick wife. Yeah, and she wasn't just, I mean, she was dying. He took off because she was about to die, and he wanted to be there while she was dying, so he stopped acting, knowing she was going to die, and then he never got back into acting because he was just taking care of his kids. So, Tara says, my Schwartz is bigger than yours. Oh, fuck, I love that movie. I'm so happy they're going to do a sequel. I really am. It's a classic movie. But first of all, everything Mel Brooks has ever done is awesome, but that in particular was one of my favorites. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Mel Brooks movie. My favorite Mel Brooks movie is probably still Young Frankenstein. Then I would say Spaceballs, then Blazing Saddles. Those are my top 3 Mel Brooks movies. But yeah, Young Frankenstein's still my favorite. I love Young Frankenstein. It's not as slapstick as the other two. And maybe that's why I like it a little better. It's still got plenty of slapstick in it, don't get me wrong. But it's not as slapstick. Does that make sense? Of course it does. Calhoun says, last year they had the votes to override the veto. This year they can't. Typical shitty Republicans. Well, but Republicans never do anything. Republicans are only good at playing defense. They are not good at playing offense. So, yeah. It's just, I don't know why. I mean, their constituents, the ones that vote for them, have been begging. I mean, since I can remember paying attention to politics, which goes back to the 90s, right? They have begged for Republicans to be more proactive in their policies. And they're not. They just go on to. I mean, the only policy they ever seem to be proactive on is tax cuts. That's it. It's the only thing they ever seem to be proactive on. Nothing else. Nothing else. So, I don't know. Although Trump's been more proactive than any other president, but to be honest, he's rarely had the backing, whether in his first term, throughout his entire first term, or throughout so far in this term. He doesn't really have congressional or Senate backing with the things that he wants to do. So he does most of the stuff he does through, executive order and presidential power. So, yeah, Republicans just, they love to play defense. I think the Republicans in their own little way love to play the victim. Oh, we've got to stop this. Look what they're doing. And then they still, when they get power, they don't actually fucking do anything. So, I don't know. I don't know. You know what's funny is I was watching something, yesterday maybe. I was going back and because I remember what initially got me at least mildly interested in politics when I was young, when I was a teenager. And I didn't really stick to it very long. It wasn't until I started having kids in my 20s that I started really paying attention to politics. But I remember when I was a teenager, the first thing political that really caught my attention was Ross Perot in the election back in 92. Well, I guess it was 91 when they were running, but you know what I mean. And I remember, again, I was young, so I was 15, I guess, when that was going on. And, just growing up as American, right? Like the fact that there was this guy who was not a Republican or a Democrat coming in and like stirring shit up. And what did he get? He got 19% of the vote in 92. And anyway, so I was watching a video because I remember it. And, I knew in my head some of the things, some of the policy points that Ross Perot stood for. But in general, he was kind of a populist. He was kind of an anti-establishment candidate. I think that was the main reason that people liked him, is he was basically like, hey, fuck the Republicans and Democrats. You know what I mean? That was basically what it boiled down to. And hold on. I just always remember thinking that was a big deal. And it was, by the way, if you go back and pay attention, like it legitimately was a big deal at the time. It was significant that he got almost 20% of the popular vote. Now, he didn't win any electoral college because he didn't have enough in any one state to win any electors, right? But the fact that he won almost 20% of the popular vote was fucking insane. I mean, to this day, it's insane. Can you imagine some third party, libertarian, whatever it is, some third party candidate winning 20% of the popular vote? That's insane, dude. It's fucking insane. And he did. And so anyway, I was watching a video because I was like, oh yeah, because somebody posted a video. It was an older video. It's like a 10-year-old video about Ross Perot, and they were making this video and talking about, it was like what would have been different about the country if Ross Perot had actually won. And it went through like all like what Ross Perot, what his policy changes and what he actually believed in were. And about half of them I knew because I remembered. Because he was essentially, I mean, he was for anybody that knows what the Reform Party was. I don't know if anybody really remembers what the Reform Party was. It was the party that Pat Buchanan and Jesse Ventura and back in 2000 Donald Trump was a part of. And I knew all this stuff, going through my head. I remember these things, but they're going through all the stuff that Ross Perot specifically, who started the Reform Party, and what his actual policies were when he was running in that election. And I'm like I said, I'm remembering about half of them, but as he's going through them, I'm realizing that with 90% similarity, Ross Perot, what he was running on is exactly the same as Trump. And I don't know why it had never occurred to me before, because I knew Trump was a part of the Reform Party back in 2000. I knew this. I think we all kind of knew that. But I was like, holy shit, that's where Trump got all this shit from. That's where all this came from, the trade imbalance with China. What's funny, if you go back and you listen to the stuff Ross Perot said in 1992, he was 100% right on everything. He predicted exactly the way trade and the economy and the value of the dollar and just the way the working class, what happened with NAFTA, everything. He fucking 100% nailed it on fucking everything. He was beyond a shadow of a doubt right on every fucking thing he said would happen if changes were not made in our country politically and economically. And he was 100% correct. He predicted all kinds of problems with housing, with just across the board, dude. He was fucking 100% right. And then if you look at, like I said, there's about a 10% difference between 1992 Ross Perot and 2025 Donald Trump. There's about a 10% difference, but 90% of their policies are exactly the fucking same. Like securing the border and China and just trade and tariffs and fucking illegal immigration and all this shit. 90% of what we today look at Donald Trump and think, okay, these are the things he wants to do. That was fucking Ross Perot. That's where Donald Trump got it from, was fucking Ross Perot. And you know what Ross Perot was considered at the time? He was considered a moderate. He was a moderate. He was a middle-of-the-road, center-line candidate. Because if you remember at the time, securing the border, tamping down on illegal immigration, those were Democrat policies. There was a lot of stuff that he agreed with that 1992 Democrats agreed with. And then there was a lot of things that he said that 1992 Republicans agreed with. He was a very middle of the road mix of like picking what, maybe not what I would consider the best policies of both parties, but what I think most people would have at the time considered the best policies of most parties, and put them together and said, this is where we should be. Not over here, not over here. We need to be right in the middle. We need to take the good from over here and bring it here, and the good from over here and bring it here, and fucking run it down the middle. And he got 20% of the popular vote because of that. And that's why we have Donald Trump doing the shit he's doing today, is because of fucking Ross Perot. And it just never clicked with me before until I was watching this video like yesterday. And I was like, fuck me. That's where Donald Trump got all of it. Everything that Donald Trump's been preaching since 2000, when he first started kind of getting involved in politics. Everything Donald Trump's been preaching since, you know, for 25 years came from fucking Ross Perot. And what is Donald Trump now? Look, Donald Trump has converted the Republican Party. Like, the Republican Party, it is not the same as it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, somebody like Mitt Romney was the face of the Republican Party. Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, John McCain. These were the face of the Republican Party. And that was another big one too. Ross Perot was really, really big on not getting involved in other people's wars, not getting involved in the Middle East, which was something that both parties disagreed with vehemently. But look where we are now. Dude, Donald Trump has turned the Republican Party, for the most part. Certainly the Republican constituents, your average Republican voter, he has turned them into Ross Perotites. He has essentially turned the Republican Party into the Reform Party. That is what Donald Trump is doing. And this just never fucking clicked with me before. It never clicked. I knew Donald Trump had been a member of the Reform Party. I knew the Reform Party was the party Ross Perot started. Never once entered my mind until I'm watching this fucking video yesterday that is exactly what fucking happened. The Republican Party, not because of the politicians, because there's still plenty of old school, you know, war hawk fucking Republicans that are in positions of power in the party. But as far as the constituency goes, and as far as the average voter goes, Republicans are now the Reform Party. I mean, just based on what they want and what they vote for, the things that the average Republican voter thinks is important and policies that need to be enacted and followed, Republicans are now the Reform Party, and Donald Trump fucking did that. That is what MAGA is. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to it than just that. There are a lot of things that we're dealing with today that were not issues back in 1992 when the Reform Party started. Namely, all the like trans right stuff going on and fucking, you know, LGBTQ preaching in schools and things like that. That's I think a big issue that a lot of people are voting on that wasn't even something that was thought about at the time, at the beginnings of the Reform Party. But in general, welcome to the Reform Party, gentlemen. Because if you voted for Donald Trump, that's basically what you are. So, which is not a bad thing, by the way. Not a bad thing. All right, let's see what you guys are saying out there in the chat. Kellen says, can you only like see every other chat or something? No. I honestly, I don't know. If I could only see every other chat, I wouldn't know that. How would I know that? Can't I? Oh, wait, isn't there a way? I think there's a way to show the chat now. Like on the screen while I'm, yeah, there we go. Right? Does that do it? I think so. I don't know if that's actually working. I'm not seeing anything. Maybe it doesn't start until somebody starts chatting. I don't know. But yeah, there's a button up there where you can actually see the comments on the screen. Oh, there we go. Kowloon says, we see nothing. See, it's starting to pop up. I just didn't have that button clicked. Let's see. Lele says, in my alternate reality book series, 1992 would have been a Perot-Trump ticket that won. Well, Trump was a hardline New York Democrat in 1992. I don't think anybody, at that point in time, I don't know if anybody would have wanted him in the White House. At least not the people that voted for him today. There's a lot of Democrats that would have wanted him in the White House. Old Man Buttery says it was the party of Newt Gingrich before Trump. Yeah, Newt Gingrich was a Reform Party for a while, wasn't he? Did he actually run for anything as a Reform Party candidate? I don't remember. Or was he just, I can't remember. Joe Cagney says, so the Republicans became assimilated to Ross Peroites. So does that mean they are the Borg? Yes, they have been assimilated. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what it means. So, yeah, you're essentially, yeah, if you voted for Trump, you're essentially a Reform Party constituent. Would that be you? I don't fucking know. Whatever you want to call it. Something like that. So, Lele says things would have changed a lot in that reality because MLK would have been president before Perot. I mean, can you imagine though? I mean, and who knows? You know, it's all speculation, right? But if Ross Perot actually had won, I mean, think about it. 90% of the things that most of us here agree need to take focus and we need to be concerned with would have been getting taken care of before they had become the problems they are today. You would have had somebody in office at the time who 100% accurately predicted the next 30 years and knew what things to do to keep those bad things from happening, whether it's war in the Middle East, whether it's the immigration crisis, economic problems, all kinds of things. Now, there are some things that might still have happened. I mean, 9/11 could have still happened, although probably not. I don't know. It's a 50-50 shot because, I mean, 9/11 at least partially happened because of our involvement in the Middle East during the Clinton administration. But it also happened because of our involvement in the Middle East during Bush Sr. and Reagan. So it's hard to say if 9/11, you can't sit there and say it wouldn't have happened. You can't say it would have, but certainly Ross Perot would not have involved us. He would have, if any involvement we had in the Middle East, he would have done everything he could to pull us out of. So we would have been much less interventionist. And that might have made a difference. Maybe 9/11 never would have happened. Imagine a world where 9/11 didn't happen. There is no Department of Homeland Security. You know, there is there is no Patriot Act. I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened with Ross Perot. It still could have happened. But there's less of a chance it would have happened with Ross Perot than Clinton. So, I don't know. I don't know, man. But it's something to think about. It's funny because, you know, I've sat here many times, and we've all talked about it before, how we would love for a third party to become viable. But guess what? It's already here. A third party took over the Republican Party. That's what happened. Donald Trump took over the Republican Party and has, for the foreseeable future, changed what it means to be Republican and changed, core tenets of the Republican voting bloc. He has changed the Republicans into the Reform Party. The third party has come along. They're just calling themselves Republicans. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, it is about time for me to wrap this one up. I have another chat I've got to go get to. So I'm going to hop off of this one. I'm going to hop onto that one. If you are interested in some toy geekery, hop on over to my other channel, Geek Fusion TV, and watch over there. But I'm going to cut this one off. Hopefully this worked for everybody. Again, we got to get into a groove. I'm going to start trying to get this done this time of day, every day, about an hour a day. Not every day, but certainly more than I've been doing chats. So hopefully this will work out. But we will see you guys on the Geek Channel here in a few minutes. I will be back on Monday at 6 o'clock my time, same as I was today. We'll do this again for another hour. So, deuces, yo, shall not pee in fridge, all that good shit. You guys have a great fucking weekend, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy, guys.